The first gunshot was hidden beneath applause. Harper Bennett heard it as a sharp crack somewhere behind the orchestra, but no one else seemed to notice. The chandeliers continued to glitter. Champagne glasses rose beneath golden light. 100 famous faces turned toward the stage, smiling for cameras as if the entire ballroom had not just shifted on its axis. Harper stood near the back wall in a midnight blue gown she had borrowed from a costume designer who still believed in her. She knew the sound of a blank gun from film sets. That had not been a blank. Across the ballroom, a man in a black tuxedo slowly lowered his champagne glass. Nicholas De Luca did not look toward the stage. He looked directly at her. Harper had never met him, but everyone in the room knew his name. It moved through whispered conversations, like a threat nobody wanted to repeat too loudly. Nicholas controlled shipping routes, construction companies, luxury hotels, private security firms, and enough politicians to make reporters nervous. Newspapers called him an international businessman. Federal agencies called him a suspected criminal king. Men who had crossed him tended to disappear without leaving behind bodies. He was taller than she expected, calm, still, surrounded by armed men disguised as donors. His eyes were not on Harper's dress, her body, or the carefully arranged curls over one shoulder. His gaze moved past her to the waiter approaching from behind. Harper saw the waiter's hand disappear beneath his white jacket. Nicholas moved first. He crossed the ballroom with terrifying speed, catching Harper around the waist just as the waiter drew a pistol. A second crack tore through the music. Nicholas turned his body, shielding her as the bullet struck a marble column. The orchestra stopped. Someone screamed. Glass shattered across the floor. Nicholas's men drew weapons. The waiter vanished into a stampede of silk gowns and black tuxedos. Harper struggled against the hard arm locked around her. "Let me go." "No." His voice was low, controlled, almost intimate against the chaos. "You don't get to abduct me because someone fired a gun." His gaze dropped to hers. "I'm not abducting you." 3 men moved toward them from the eastern entrance. Harper saw the shapes beneath their jackets. Nicholas pulled her closer. Reporters had turned their cameras toward them. Celebrities were frozen in clusters near the tables. On the opposite side of the ballroom, Vittoria Santoro watched from beneath a crown of silver hair, her expression perfectly composed. One of the approaching men called out, "Step away from the woman, De Luca." Nicholas did not even glance at him. He lifted one hand and placed it against Harper's cheek, the gesture so startlingly gentle that she stopped fighting for 1 second. Then he faced the entire room. "She is my wife." Silence swept through the ballroom. Not ordinary silence. The kind that came before an empire cracked open. Harper stared at him. "What did you just say?" Nicholas's hand slid from her cheek to the back of her neck, keeping her beside him as his guards formed a wall around them. "You heard me. I have never seen you before in my life." Something unreadable passed through his eyes. "That is not the same as saying I have never seen you." Before Harper could answer, the lights went out. The ballroom exploded into panic. Nicholas dragged her down as gunfire tore through the darkness. His body covered hers against the floor. The scent of cedar, gunpowder, and expensive wool surrounded her. Men shouted in Italian. Tables overturned. Harper felt Nicholas reach beneath his jacket. A flash lit his face as he fired twice into the darkness. His expression did not change. He killed with the same cold focus other men used to sign documents. Then his gaze returned to her, and the coldness disappeared just enough to frighten her more. "Stay beneath me. I'm not staying anywhere with you." Harper. It was the first time he said her name, not as if he had just learned it, as if he had been saying it in private for years. Emergency lights flickered on. Nicholas rose and pulled her with him. Blood darkened the sleeve of his tuxedo. "You're hurt, not mine." He guided her through the ruined ballroom while armed guards closed behind them. At the service corridor, Harper twisted free. "My agent is still inside." Your agent left 7 minutes before the first shot. She froze. How do you know that? Because he was paid to make sure you stood beside that column. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. That's impossible. Nicholas stepped closer, his gaze steady. Your invitation was delivered yesterday. Your assigned table was changed this afternoon. Your car was redirected through a security entrance that had no cameras. None of that was accidental. Harper swallowed. You knew this would happen. I knew someone would try. And you let me walk into the room? His jaw tightened. No. I came to stop it. Before she could strike him, a bullet punched through the corridor door. Nicholas caught her against his chest and fired over her shoulder. One of his men opened a side exit. Rain lashed the alley beyond it, silver beneath the city lights. Black SUVs waited with engines running. Harper planted her heels. I am not getting into that car. Nicholas turned toward her. Rain darkened his hair. Blood streaked one side of his white shirt. Behind him, armed men poured into the alley. You can hate me from inside the car. I don't know you. You know enough to understand that every person who tried to kill you tonight believed you belonged to me. That makes no sense. It will. When? When you are alive long enough to hear it. Another gunshot sparked against the brick wall. Nicholas lifted her into his arms. Harper gasped and struck his shoulder. Put me down. No. I can walk. I know. Then why are you carrying me? His eyes met hers as he crossed the rain-soaked alley. Because I have waited too long to reach you. I will not lose you in the first 5 minutes. He placed her inside the SUV and climbed in after her. The doors locked. As the convoy sped into the rainy Manhattan night, Harper looked through the tinted window at the ballroom, disappearing behind them. On the giant charity banner above the entrance, her own face appeared beside the words, honoring the Bennett Foundation legacy. She had agreed to attend because her late mother had once volunteered for the foundation. She had never known there was a legacy. Nicholas sat opposite her, blood on his hands and a wedding ring on his finger. Harper stared at it. You planned that announcement. No? You just happened to be wearing a wedding ring? I always wear it. Her voice lowered. You are not my husband. Nicholas leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. Rain slid down the dark windows behind him. Legally, he said. I am. Harper laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You are insane. Possibly. You cannot marry someone without their knowledge. In most circumstances, no. In every circumstance. Your signature appeared on a trust document 6 months ago. A trust document is not a marriage license. The document contained multiple authorizations. Her blood turned cold. You hid a marriage certificate inside legal paperwork. I did not hide it. What would you call it? A necessary protection. Harper lunged across the space and slapped him. The sound was sharp inside the SUV. 2 guards in the front glanced back. Nicholas did not move. A red mark appeared across his cheek. He looked at her with something almost like approval. Do that again, he said quietly, and the men in front will think I have lost control of my household. I am not your household. No. His gaze dropped to her mouth and then returned to her eyes. You are the only person in it who matters. Harper sat back, shaken by the calm intensity of his voice. I want the car stopped. No. I want a lawyer. You'll have 3. I want the police. They are already waiting outside your apartment. Good. They are not waiting to protect you. The SUV turned sharply. Nicholas reached out before she hit the door, bracing one hand beside her head without touching her. The officer assigned to your building received $200,000 this morning. He continued. Your agent received $500,000. The man who forged the gala's security schedule worked for Vittoria Santoro. Harper remembered the silver-haired woman watching from across the ballroom. Who is she? The reason your career disappeared. For the first time since the gunshot, Harper forgot to breathe. Nicholas leaned back. 5 years ago, you were offered the lead in a studio film called Winter's Daughter. Harper stared at him. The film had made another actress famous. The director changed his mind. No. The director was threatened. By Vittoria. By men working through companies she owns. Why would a mafia family care about an actress? Because you were never only an actress. Harper looked away. Outside, Manhattan became a blur of wet neon. Her life had been ordinary, in the way slow heartbreak was ordinary. Auditions that went nowhere. Producers who praised her talent but chose someone more marketable. Roles reduced from leads to supporting parts. Then from supporting parts to one-line appearances. Harper had refused to destroy herself for an industry that only loved women it could control. She taught acting classes, recorded audiobooks, and cared for her mother through a long illness. She had accepted disappointment. What she had never accepted was being told her failure had been engineered. You expect me to believe you know everything about my career? I know the names of every producer who rejected you after offering you a role. I know which contracts were withdrawn, which reviews were purchased, and which photographs were buried. A dangerous quiet entered the SUV. Harper looked at him again. Why? Nicholas did not answer. The convoy descended into an underground garage beneath a black glass tower. He stepped out first and offered his hand. Harper ignored it. She climbed out alone. The penthouse occupied 3 floors and looked less like a home than a private fortress suspended above Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a city drowning in rain. Dark stone, black wood, and muted gold stretched through the enormous rooms. Security screens covered one wall. Harper saw her apartment building on one of them. She stopped. The screen showed the entrance, the alley, the fire escape, and the small coffee shop across the street. You were watching me. Nicholas removed his blood-stained jacket, protecting you. Without my permission, with the understanding that you would object. That does not make it better. No. The answer disarmed her. He handed the jacket to a guard and rolled up his sleeves. A narrow cut marked his forearm. Harper watched a doctor approach, but Nicholas dismissed him with one look. Where are my things? She asked. Being brought here. You sent people into my home? Yes. Her hand tightened around the small clutch she still carried. You keep saying yes as if honesty excuses everything. It does not. Then stop acting like you were doing me favors. Nicholas faced her fully. I am not asking for gratitude. What are you asking for? Time. To prove what? That you will die if you leave. The city flashed white beneath lightning. Harper hated that some part of her believed him. She hated even more that another part remembered the way he had covered her body with his own. Nicholas led her into a private office. On the desk lay a thick folder bearing her name. Inside were documents, photographs, corporate records, newspaper clippings, and a family tree. At the top was a black and white photograph of a woman who looked like Harper. Not exactly. The woman had Harper's eyes, her curved mouth, and the same quiet confidence in the way she stood. Who is she? Eleanor Bennett. My grandmother? Your grandmother was Eleanor's younger sister. Harper looked at the handwritten date beneath the photograph. Eleanor was an actress, Nicholas said. She became one of the most powerful investors in post-war Hollywood. She owned theaters, land, production companies, and private banks through holding corporations, no one connected to her name. Why have I never heard of her? Because she disappeared. Harper turned the next page. A photograph showed Eleanor beside a dark-haired man outside a church in Sicily. Salvatore De Luca, Nicholas said. My grandfather. Harper looked up sharply. They were together. They intended to marry. 3 mafia families opposed it. Eleanor's fortune would have given my grandfather control of shipping ports from Sicily to California. What happened? She was pregnant. The room went still. Nicholas placed one hand on the desk. She gave birth to a daughter in secret. The child was hidden with Eleanor's sister in America. My grandmother? Yes. Harper stared at the family tree again. The daughter's line led down through Harper's mother to Harper. I'm related to your family, not by blood. Then why? The child was Salvatore's heir under a private inheritance agreement. Eleanor placed her assets into a sealed trust. Control would pass to the first unmarried female descendant of her daughter after a specific date. Harper read the clause 3 times. That is me. Yes. How much? Nicholas's expression did not change. Approximately $14 billion in current assets. Harper laughed again, but her knees weakened. She sat down. This is absurd. It includes hotels, film libraries, commercial property, energy companies, and controlling shares in banks used by several criminal organizations. And Victoria wants it. She needs it. Her empire is collapsing. Harper looked at the marriage certificate near the bottom of the folder. Her name appeared beside Nicholas's. The signature looked like hers because it was hers, copied from the trust paperwork. You married me to control the inheritance. Nicholas went very still. It was the first accusation that seemed to reach him. The trust could be seized by any recognized spouse if you died before claiming it, he said. So you became the spouse, to prevent someone else from doing it. That does not answer me. His eyes darkened. Control passes temporarily to me if you are killed. That made your death financially useless to every rival family, but profitable for you. Yes, the word cut deeper, because he did not deny it. Harper closed the folder. So this is business. At first, she looked at him. Nicholas's face revealed nothing. What does that mean? It means I signed the document because it protected an asset. Her chest tightened. And now? His gaze moved over her face with terrible patience. Now I would burn every dollar connected to that trust if it meant keeping you alive. Harper stood. You do not get to say things like that. Why? Because you stole my name. You watched my home. You investigated my life. You stood in a ballroom and claimed me before I knew who you were. His voice softened. I know. That is not love. I did not call it love. The answer hurt more than it should have. She hated herself for feeling it. Nicholas stepped closer, stopping just beyond reach. It is not love, he said. Not yet. Thunder rolled over the city. Harper held his gaze. What is it? Something I have spent 6 months trying not to name. Before she could respond, an alarm sounded through the penthouse. The lights shifted red. Nicholas turned instantly. A guard entered. Sir, the east elevator has been breached. Nicholas drew a gun from behind his back. Harper had not known it was there. How many? 8. Possibly 10. Nicholas looked at Harper. Come with me. I am not hiding while you shoot people. That was not a request. She folded her arms. Then you married the wrong woman. For one brief second, something like amusement touched his mouth. Then the windows shattered. Gunfire erupted across the penthouse. Nicholas crossed the room, seized Harper around the waist, and pulled her behind the desk as bullets tore through glass and wood. He returned fire with controlled precision. Harper pressed her hands over her ears. A guard fell near the door. She saw blood spreading beneath him. Nicholas moved toward him, but another shooter appeared on the balcony. Harper saw the laser sight travel across Nicholas's back. Nicholas. She grabbed a bronze sculpture from the desk and threw it. The sculpture struck the shooter's wrist just as he fired. The bullet missed Nicholas by inches. Nicholas shot the man once. Then he turned toward Harper. The fury in his face was not directed at the attacker. It was directed at her. What did you think you were doing? Saving your life. You exposed yourself. You were about to be shot. That is not your concern. You made me your wife. Apparently it is. Another explosion shook the building. Nicholas stared at her for half a second longer, then pulled her against him and moved toward a concealed door behind the bookcase. They descended a narrow stairwell into a secure level beneath the penthouse. Nicholas locked the steel door behind them. The hidden safe house contained medical supplies, weapons, food, and surveillance equipment. There was one bedroom. Harper looked at it. Of course there is. Nicholas checked the cameras. You take the bed. I would rather sleep on the floor. I won't touch you. That is not what worries me. His hands paused over the controls. What worries you? Harper met his reflection in the dark monitor. That I believed you would die up there, and it terrified me. Silence filled the room. Nicholas turned slowly. The violence had not left him. It remained in the set of his shoulders and the blood on his shirt. But when he looked at her now, something beneath his control fractured. He took one step toward her, then stopped. His hand lifted as if to touch her face. It hovered inches from her skin. Harper did not move, neither did he. Finally, Nicholas lowered his hand. "You should be afraid of me," he said. "I am. That is not what your eyes say. My eyes have always had poor judgment." His mouth almost curved again. The alarm continued above them. Harper looked at the cut across his ribs, where a bullet had grazed him. "You are bleeding." "It is nothing. Sit down." He did not. Harper pointed toward the chair. "I have spent 10 years around actors who believed they were immortal. I know how to treat stubborn men." "Sit." Nicholas obeyed. That frightened her more than his refusal would have. She opened the medical kit and cleaned the wound. His body remained perfectly still beneath her hands, but she noticed the way his fingers tightened against his knee when she touched his skin. "You can survive bullets," she murmured, "but antiseptic troubles you. Your hands trouble me." Harper paused. His gaze lifted to hers. The space between them changed. She became aware of the warmth of his body, the slow rhythm of his breathing, and the dark intensity in his eyes. "You said this was not love. It is not. Then, stop looking at me like that. How am I looking at you? Like you have already decided I belong to you." Nicholas's voice dropped. "I decided that before I saw you in person." Harper set the gauze down. "That is not romantic." "I know. It is disturbing. I know that too. Then why say it?" "Because you deserve one honest thing tonight." She stepped away. Nicholas caught her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, only enough to stop her. His thumb rested over her pulse. "I will never ask you to change anything about yourself," he said. "Not your body, not your voice, not the way you challenge me in front of armed men. I have watched rooms overlook you because they were too stupid to recognize what stood before them." Harper's throat tightened. "You do not know me. I know you stayed beside your mother for 18 months when every studio told you leaving would end your career. I know you teach free acting classes on Saturdays. I know you send half your audiobook income to a shelter in Queens. I know you turned down a producer who offered you a role in exchange for becoming someone smaller, quieter, and easier to sell. That information was private." "Yes." "You invaded my life." "Yes." She pulled her wrist free. "You keep admitting terrible things. I would rather have you hate the truth than trust a lie." By morning, the attack had ended. 3 gunmen were dead. 2 had escaped. One carried a signet ring belonging to the Santoro family. Nicholas moved Harper to a hidden estate in the Hudson Valley. The mansion stood behind iron gates and miles of winter forest. Snow covered the grounds in clean white silence. Armed guards patrolled beneath bare trees. Harper was given a suite larger than her apartment. Her belongings had been arranged with unsettling accuracy. Her books stood beside the bed. Her mother's framed photograph rested on the mantel. Even the old chipped mug she used every morning had been placed beside a silver coffee machine. Nicholas watched her notice it. "You brought everything." "Not everything." "What did you leave?" "Anything with a tracking device." Harper looked at him. "My lamp had a tracking device. Your agent placed it there." The betrayal settled slowly. Her agent, Daniel Reed, had represented her for 7 years. He had attended her mother's funeral. He had held her hand after failed auditions and promised the next role would change everything. "Where is he?" Nicholas's face hardened. "Being found. Do not kill him. He sold your schedule to men who intended to shoot you. I still do not want him killed." "Why?" "Because I do not want your violence committed in my name." Nicholas studied her. "And if sparing him places you in danger, then we find another way." There is rarely another way. There is always another way. Men like you simply prefer the fastest one. His expression became unreadable. Men like me. You know what I mean. Yes. He turned toward the window. Snow fell beyond the glass. Harper saw the loneliness in his posture before he hid it. That evening, she found him in the library, sitting alone before a fire. No guards, no phone, no documents. He held a movie script in his hands. Harper recognized it immediately. Winter's daughter, the role she had lost. Nicholas looked up. You kept that? I bought the studio that owned it. Her eyebrows rose. You bought an entire film studio? 3 years ago. Why? So they could not erase your audition. He pressed a button on the table. A screen descended across the far wall. Harper's younger face appeared in a test scene filmed 5 years earlier. She stood in artificial snow, delivering a monologue about grief. Harper had never seen the recording. She watched herself break down on screen, not with theatrical tears, but with the quiet devastation of a daughter saying goodbye to her mother. When the scene ended, the room remained silent. Nicholas looked at her. They told the public you lacked emotional depth. Harper swallowed. They said I wasn't right for the role. They said audiences would not believe a woman who looked like you could be desired by the male lead. The old wound opened beneath her ribs. Nicholas rose. I had the producer investigated. You cannot punish everyone who rejects me. No. He moved closer. Only those who conspired to destroy you. Nicholas, Vittoria financed the studio. She made sure you never became famous enough to investigate your family history. Every role you lost was part of the same strategy. Harper looked at her younger face frozen on the screen. My entire career was taken from you. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Nicholas lifted his hand. Again he stopped before touching her. Harper closed the distance herself. She pressed her forehead against his chest. His body became perfectly still. For several seconds, he did nothing. Then his arms came around her with almost unbearable care. He held her as if she were something both precious and dangerous. Harper listened to his heartbeat beneath the black shirt. Why did you keep watching the audition? She whispered. Nicholas's hand moved slowly over her back. Because it was the first time I saw someone tell the truth without fear. You did not know me. I knew enough. She pulled back. His face was close. Too close. The fire painted gold along his jaw. Harper's gaze dropped to his mouth. Nicholas noticed. His fingers tightened at her waist, then loosened. He stepped away first. Why did you stop? She asked. Because you are grieving. And I do not take what is offered in pain. The restraint in his voice unsettled her more than desire would have. 2 days later, Harper received a video from Daniel. Her agent appeared tied to a chair in an unknown room. A woman's voice spoke off camera. Come to the Street Aurelia Hotel alone, or he dies. Nicholas watched the video without expression. Harper stood beside him in the security room. We have to help him. No. He betrayed me. But I will not leave him there. It is a trap, obviously. Then the answer is no. You do not control my answer. Nicholas turned toward her. When your answer leads you into a room filled with men who want to cut the inheritance codes from your body, I do. Harper stared at him. The codes? The trust requires biometric confirmation. You left that out. I was trying not to tell you everything in one night. You mean you were controlling what I knew? Yes. The admission ignited her anger. I am not one of your companies. No. You cannot move me from property to property and decide which truths I am strong enough to hear. His gaze sharpened. I know exactly how strong you are. That is why I know you will risk yourself for a man who sold you. Compassion is not weakness. In my world, it is an exposed artery. Then maybe your world is the problem. Something cold entered his face. My world is the only reason you are breathing. And your world is the reason people are shooting at me. Nicholas stepped closer. You were in danger long before I entered your life, but now I am trapped inside yours." The words landed between them. For the first time, Harper saw pain break through his control. It vanished almost immediately. He looked toward his men. "Prepare the convoy." Harper blinked. "You are taking me?" "No. I am going." "You said it was a trap." "It is." "Then why?" "Because you asked me to save him." The Street Aurelia Hotel had been closed for renovation for 3 years. That night, black SUVs surrounded the abandoned building beneath heavy snow. Nicholas ordered Harper to remain in the armored vehicle. She waited exactly 4 minutes. Then she saw a figure moving across the hotel roof with a rifle. The scope pointed toward the entrance where Nicholas had disappeared. Harper grabbed the driver's radio. "There is a shooter on the north roof." Static answered. The driver slumped forward. Blood stained his collar. Harper's door unlocked from the outside. Daniel stood there, pale and shaking. "Harper, come with me." She looked at the blood on his cuff. "Are you hurt?" "No." His eyes would not meet hers. Understanding came slowly. "You were never a prisoner." "I did not have a choice." "You always had a choice." Men appeared behind him. Harper reached for the radio, but Daniel seized her wrist. "I am sorry." She drove her knee into his stomach and ran. Gunfire erupted across the parking lot. Harper moved between the SUVs, slipping in the snow. A bullet shattered a windshield beside her. Then Nicholas appeared from the hotel doors. His white shirt was streaked with blood. A gun filled each hand. He saw Harper outside the vehicle. Something savage transformed his face. He crossed the open ground through gunfire. "Nicholas, the roof!" He turned and fired upward without stopping. The sniper fell over the edge. Nicholas reached Harper as another shooter emerged behind her. He pulled her against him and took the bullet in his shoulder. The impact drove him to one knee. Harper screamed. Nicholas shot the attacker from the ground. Then he looked up at her, blood spreading across his shirt. "Are you hurt? You were shot. Are you hurt?" "No." Only then did he breathe. His men closed around them. Daniel tried to run, but 2 guards dragged him back. Nicholas rose, despite the blood pouring down his arm. He aimed his weapon at Daniel. Harper stepped between them. "No." Nicholas's eyes were black with rage. "Move. You promised another way." "I promised nothing. He is unarmed. He sold you, and he will answer for it. He is answering now." Nicholas's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "He opened your car door to men who intended to take you apart piece by piece." Harper's heart pounded. "Then make him testify. Make him expose Vittoria. Do not kill him because you are angry." "I am not angry. You took a bullet for me. I would take 1,000. Then prove it meant something." The snow fell around them. Nicholas held the gun steady. Harper could see the war inside him, the instinct to destroy, the need to obey the only moral boundary she had asked him to respect. Slowly, he lowered the weapon. "Take Daniel alive," he ordered. His men obeyed. Nicholas swayed. Harper caught him. For the first time, the most feared man in the city allowed his weight to rest against her. At the private hospital, Nicholas refused anesthesia until he knew Harper was safe. She sat beside the operating room while surgeons removed the bullet. Near dawn, she entered his recovery suite. Nicholas lay pale beneath white sheets, his shoulder bandaged. The sight of him without a suit, weapons, or guards made him look younger and more dangerous in a different way. Human. His eyes opened. "You stayed. You were shot because I left the car. You left because your driver was dead. I should have trusted you." "No." His voice was weak but certain. "You should never trust blindly." Harper sat beside him. "You saved Daniel." "I saved him because you asked. That is what worries me." "Why?" "Because I do not know what else you would do if I asked." Nicholas watched her. "Anything." The answer came without hesitation. Harper looked down at his hand. A wedding band remained on his finger. "You have worn that every day?" "Yes." "Even before the gala?" "Yes." "Why?" His eyes closed briefly, because once I signed the certificate, removing it felt dishonest. You married a stranger. No. He opened his eyes again. You were a stranger to me. I was not a stranger to you. Harper frowned. What does that mean? Nicholas turned his face toward the window. Your mother knew me. The room became cold. My mother, 7 years ago. She contacted my family attorney. She had discovered the trust and knew Vittoria was watching you. Harper stood. You met her? Was. When? 3 weeks before she died. Pain tightened around Harper's heart. What did she say? She asked me to protect you without taking your life away from you. A bitter laugh escaped Harper. You failed. Yes. The honesty left no defense. Nicholas reached toward the drawer beside the bed. Inside was an envelope. Harper recognized her mother's handwriting. For Harper, her fingers trembled as she opened it. My darling girl, if you are reading this, then the past has reached you, despite everything I did to keep it away. There is a man named Nicholas De Luca. You will be right not to trust him. He was raised in a world where love is often another word for possession, but I saw something in him he did not want me to see. He still knows the difference between protecting a person and owning one, even if he sometimes forgets. Do not let him decide your life. But do not assume his darkness means he has no heart. He looked at your photograph as though he had already found something he was afraid to lose. Harper stopped reading. The words blurred. She looked at Nicholas. You saw my photograph before she died. Yes. And that was when this began. That was when I learned your name. What did my mother ask you to do? To keep the trust sealed until you were ready. Then why marry me? Because Vittoria learned the activation date had passed. 3 men attempted to file fraudulent marriage claims using your stolen documents. One planned to abduct you and force a ceremony. Another planned to kill you immediately afterward. And you decided your fraud was more acceptable. No. His voice was quiet. I decided mine would keep you breathing, while I searched for another solution. Harper held the letter against her chest. Did you ever intend to tell me? Yes. When? When the danger was gone. That could have been years. Yes. She stared at him. You would have watched me from the shadows for years, if necessary. While wearing a ring? Yes. The truth was frightening. So was the loneliness beneath it. Harper sat again. My mother wrote that you looked at my photograph as if you were afraid to lose me. Nicholas's jaw tightened. She was observant. Were you? He did not answer. Harper reached for his hand. His fingers closed around hers immediately. I am still angry. She said, You should be. I may never forgive what you did. I know. But when I thought you were dying in that parking lot. Nicholas looked at her. She felt his control begin to break. I could not breathe, she whispered. His thumb moved over her knuckles. Harper. She leaned forward and kissed him. For one heartbeat, Nicholas did not respond. Then his hand rose to the back of her neck. The kiss deepened with all the restraint he had refused to surrender. It was not gentle because he lacked hunger. It was gentle because he feared what his hunger could become. Harper felt the force of him held behind discipline. When she pulled away, his forehead rested against hers. This changes nothing, she whispered. It changes everything. You are still impossible. I know. You are still controlling. I am trying. You secretly married me. His eyes lowered to her mouth. That is becoming my favorite accusation. She almost smiled. Then the hospital windows exploded. Nicholas pulled Harper from the chair just as bullets ripped through the room. He covered her with his uninjured side. Security alarms screamed. Smoke filled the corridor. Armed men in hospital uniforms entered through the emergency stairwell. Nicholas reached beneath the bed and drew a pistol. Harper stared at him. You keep guns under hospital beds? I own the hospital. Of course you do. He fired through the doorway. A guard shouted that the helicopter pad had been compromised. Nicholas took Harper's hand and led her through a service corridor while blood soaked through his fresh bandage. They reached the rooftop, Beneath a violent winter storm, a helicopter waited with rotors turning. Black SUVs burned in the street below. On the opposite side of the roof, Vittoria Santoro stood beneath a white umbrella. She wore a silver coat, untouched by the snow. Daniel stood beside her, guarded by two men. Harper looked at Nicholas. "You let him go?" "No." Vittoria smiled. "He was never yours to keep." Nicholas raised his weapon. Vittoria's guards pressed a gun to Daniel's head. "Put it down," she said. Nicholas did not move. Vittoria looked at Harper. "You have your grandmother's face. You destroyed my career. I preserved your invisibility. Fame would have made you difficult to contain." Harper's anger burned hotter than fear. "You tried to kill me." "I tried to persuade Nicholas to reveal himself." Vittoria's gaze moved toward him, and he did exactly what I expected. He stood before the world and claimed you. Nicholas's expression remained cold. "What do you want?" "The trust authorization. Harper signs the assets to me, and I allow both of you to live." "No," Nicholas said. Vittoria laughed softly. "You do not answer for her." Nicholas glanced at Harper. It was a small movement, but she understood it. He was giving the choice back to her. Harper faced Vittoria. "I will sign." Nicholas's eyes sharpened. Vittoria smiled. A guard carried a tablet forward. Harper took it. The transfer document filled the screen. She looked at Nicholas. "Trust me." She tried to tell him without words. His jaw tightened. Harper signed. The tablet flashed red. Transfer rejected. Vittoria's smile disappeared. Harper lifted her chin. "You needed my biometric signature," she said, "but the trust requires the spouse's consent for any transfer above $1 billion. Vittoria turned toward Nicholas. He raised his left hand. The wedding ring gleamed beneath the rooftop lights. "You thought the marriage gave me control," he said. "It gave her protection." Vittoria's guards opened fire. Nicholas pushed Harper behind a concrete barrier. The rooftop erupted into violence. Daniel tackled one of Vittoria's men. A bullet struck him in the side. Nicholas fired with one hand while shielding Harper with his body. The helicopter exploded behind them. Heat rolled across the roof. Vittoria fled toward the stairwell. Harper saw her drop a small detonator beside the fuel line. "Nicholas." He turned. The second explosion tore through the rooftop. Concrete split beneath Harper's feet. She fell backward over the edge. Nicholas caught her wrist. For one suspended second, Harper hung above 40 stories of snow and fire. Nicholas lay flat against the broken roof, his wounded shoulder bleeding. "Let the guards help you," Harper gasped. "They are pinned down. You cannot hold me." His fingers tightened. "I can. You are bleeding." "I do not care." Nicholas. His face changed. The fear he had hidden through bullets, betrayal, and war finally appeared. "Raf. Terrible. Human. Do not ask me to release you." Harper looked into his eyes. "I am not." With a broken sound, Nicholas pulled her upward inch by inch. His wound tore open. Blood ran down his arm and over their joined hands. A guard reached them and dragged Harper onto the roof. Nicholas collapsed beside her. She caught his face between her hands. "Stay with me." His eyes struggled to focus. "Did she escape?" "I do not care." "You should. I care about you." The words stopped him. Harper pressed her forehead to his. "I care about you, you impossible, terrifying man." His bloodied hand touched her cheek. "That is close enough to a confession. Do not become smug while dying." "I am not dying. You are barely conscious." "I have survived worse." Harper's voice broke. "But not with me." Nicholas looked at her for a long moment. "No," he whispered. "Never with you." Vittoria escaped the hospital, but the war changed that night. Daniel survived and agreed to testify. His evidence connected Vittoria to studio executives, judges, senators, and criminal networks across 2 continents. Harper spent 3 weeks at Nicholas's estate, while federal investigators dismantled the financial conspiracy. During that time, Nicholas became more difficult, not less. He doubled the guards. He replaced every window. He attempted to assign Harper a permanent driver, personal doctor, legal advisor, and weapons instructor. She rejected 3 of the 4. "You need the weapons instructor," he said over breakfast. "I need coffee. You also need to learn how to shoot. I threw a sculpture at a sniper. You missed. I hit his wrist. You were lucky." Harper took a sip from her chipped mug. "Are all husbands this irritating?" Nicholas looked up from his newspaper. The word affected him more than she expected. "You called me your husband, legally." His Chase held hers. "I will accept that for now." Despite everything, Harper began to understand the quiet spaces inside him. Nicholas slept little. When he did, he woke reaching for weapons. He never sat with his back to a door. He remembered the names of every guard's children, but pretended not to. He sent money anonymously to families of men lost in his service. He kept his mother's rosary in a locked drawer. He was not a good man. He never claimed to be, but he was not empty. One night, Harper found him sitting outside her bedroom door. Rain struck the mansion windows. "Nicholas?" He looked up. "Why are you on the floor?" "You were dreaming." "How do you know?" "You called for your mother." Harper's chest tightened. "You could have come inside. I did not know if I was welcome." The most feared mafia boss in America sat outside her door because he had finally learned not to enter without permission. Harper opened the door wider. "You are welcome." He stood. Inside, he remained beside the window until she returned to bed. "You can lie down," she said. Nicholas looked at her. "I will not touch you." "I know." He removed his jacket and lay on top of the covers beside her. Harper turned toward him. Lightning illuminated his face. "Were you ever going to release me from the marriage?" "Yes." "When?" "When you asked." "I have asked." "You called it illegal." "You did not ask for an annulment." She narrowed her eyes. "That distinction sounds suspiciously convenient." "It is." "Nicholas," his voice softened, "if you ask me now, I will sign every document tomorrow." Harper studied him. "And what will you do afterward?" "Continue protecting you. From a distance, if that is what you want. Will you stop watching me?" Pain flickered in his eyes. "Yes." "Will you stop rearranging your life around mine?" A long silence followed. "I will try." Harper understood then that Nicholas could surrender wealth, power, and blood more easily than he could surrender proximity to her. She moved closer. "I am not asking for an annulment tonight." His breath changed. "Why?" "Because I do not make permanent decisions during thunderstorms. That is not a real rule." "It is now." Nicholas's hand rested between them. Harper placed her palm over it. They slept that way. The next morning, news broke that Victoria had taken control of a private island off the coast of Maine. She had seized Eleanor Bennett's original archives and kidnapped the last surviving trustee. Harper entered Nicholas's office while his captains argued around a map. "I am going with you." "No." The room fell silent. Harper smiled without warmth. "You announced our marriage in a ballroom. You can disagree with me in front of your men." Nicholas dismissed everyone with one look. When the doors closed, he faced her. "Victoria wants you on that island. She also has the only person who can testify that the trust belongs to me. I do not care about the trust." "I do." His expression hardened. "I will recover the trustee. You do not even know what he looks like." "I know his name. I spoke to him yesterday." Nicholas froze. Harper placed a recording device on the desk. "The trustee contacted me through my mother's old attorney. He hid a message inside one of her letters. You kept this from me." "Yes." Anger moved through his face. Harper did not step back. "You taught me that information is protection. I taught you badly. You taught me exactly as you live." He came around the desk. "You are not going to that island. I am the only person Victoria will negotiate with. She will kill you. She has tried several times. It is becoming repetitive. This is not amusing." I am not trying to be amusing. Harper moved closer. You said I was not an asset. Prove it. Nicholas stared at her. How? Let me participate in my own survival. The decision cost him. She could see it. Finally. He nodded once. You remain beside me. I will remain where I am useful. Harper. That is the compromise. His jaw tightened. Fine. They traveled north in a storm. The private island emerged through fog, crowned by an old stone mansion and surrounded by black water. Nicholas's boats approached, without lights. Harper wore a bulletproof vest beneath a dark coat. As they reached the shore, Nicholas caught her hand. If anything happens, I stay behind you. No. You return to the boat. That is not what we agreed. I lead. Harper stared at him. Nicholas lifted her hand and pressed his mouth to her knuckles. It was the first public tenderness he had shown since the ballroom. His men looked away. I have lied to governments, priests, and men holding guns to my head, he said. Do not expect honesty when your life is involved. Harper touched his face. Then listen carefully. If you try to lock me on that boat, I will jump into the ocean. You would not. I was raised by an actress. I can be dramatic when necessary. For 1 second, Nicholas looked almost helpless. Then gunfire erupted from the cliffs. The assault began. Nicholas's men returned fire, while Harper and Nicholas moved through an underground tunnel leading beneath the mansion. Inside, the walls were lined with old film posters. Every actress had been connected to Eleanor's studio. At the end of the tunnel, they found a hidden screening room. Hundreds of photographs covered the walls. Harper appeared in many of them, leaving auditions, buying groceries, sitting beside her mother's hospital bed, laughing with students outside her acting class. Harper stopped. Nicholas looked around, his face darkening. These are not mine. You expect me to believe that? My surveillance was digital and limited to your safety routes. That sentence is not reassuring. He tore one photograph from the wall. A date on the back revealed it had been taken 12 years earlier, before Nicholas knew her name. Vittoria had watched Harper almost her entire adult life. A projector turned on. Vittoria appeared on the screen. If you are watching this, Nicholas brought you exactly where I needed you. Steel doors slammed behind them. Gas hissed from the ceiling. Nicholas pulled Harper's coat over her mouth and shot the projector. They found an air vent near the floor. Nicholas kicked through it and forced Harper inside. You first. What about you? I am behind you. The vent led to the mansion's wine cellar. They emerged, coughing, into a room filled with armed men. Nicholas fired before they could raise their weapons. Harper grabbed a fallen man's radio and heard Vittoria ordering guards toward the chapel. The trustee is in the chapel. Nicholas reloaded. We leave. We are 10 feet from the evidence. You inhaled gas. I can still walk. No. Harper seized his lapels. Nicholas. She stole my career, my history, and years of my mother's life. I will not leave her holding the last piece of my family. His eyes searched hers. Then he nodded. They moved through the mansion together. In the chapel, Vittoria stood before the altar with the trustee kneeling at her feet. The old man was bleeding from the temple. Beside him stood Nicholas's uncle, Carlo De Luca. Nicholas stopped. Carlo smiled. Your father always said love would make you weak. Nicholas's face became empty. You gave Vittoria access to the hospital and the penthouse. Harper felt Nicholas's hand tighten around hers. Carlo looked at her. He began destroying family alliances the moment he saw your photograph. He bought studios, threatened bankers, moved soldiers across continents. All for a woman who did not know his name. Harper turned toward Nicholas. How long? Nicholas did not answer. Carlo laughed. Your mother introduced them 7 years ago. But Nicholas found her first film when he was 24. A small, independent movie no one watched. He kept the poster in his private office. Harper stared at him. You knew who I was before my mother contacted you. Nicholas's silence confirmed it. The betrayal was not in the danger. It was in the intimacy he had withheld. You lied. I omitted. Do not. Her voice echoed through the chapel. You told me my photograph was the beginning. It was the beginning of the threat, but not of you. Vittoria smiled. There it is. The truth he feared more than death. Nicholas's face hardened. Carlo raised a weapon toward Harper. Nicholas stepped in front of her. Vittoria placed a knife against the trustee's throat. Sign the transfer, she said, or everyone dies. Harper looked at Nicholas. His eyes remained on Carlo's gun. You knew me for years, she whispered. Yes. Were the roles you saved, the studio you bought, all of it because of the trust? No. Then why? His answer came quietly. Because I heard your voice in a film when I was becoming someone I could no longer recognize. Carlo's expression twisted. Nicholas continued. You played a woman who forgave a man who did not deserve it. I watched that scene after ordering the death of 6 people. For 3 minutes, I remembered what mercy looked like. Harper's anger faltered. I followed your work after that. At first, I told myself it was curiosity, then routine, then protection. Obsession, Vittoria said. Nicholas did not look away from Harper. Yes, the word entered the chapel like a confession. I knew your coffee order before I knew the names of half my captains. I knew when you were sad by the books you bought. I knew every time someone made you believe you were less than extraordinary, and I hated them for it. Harper's eyes burned. You should have told me. I was ashamed. You are not ashamed of killing. No. His voice broke slightly. I was ashamed that one woman I had never met possessed the only part of me I could not control. Carlo fired. Nicholas pushed Harper down. The bullet struck him below the ribs. Chaos erupted. Harper crawled behind a pew as Nicholas returned fire. The trustee knocked Vittoria's arm aside. The knife fell. Carlo shot again, but Harper seized a brass candle holder and struck his knee. Nicholas fired once. Carlo collapsed. Vittoria ran toward the altar where a detonator rested beside the archives. Harper reached her first. Vittoria grabbed Harper's hair and drove her against the stone wall. You were supposed to remain invisible. Harper struck her across the face. I spent years being underestimated. You should have known. That made me dangerous. Vittoria lunged with the knife. Nicholas caught her wrist. He was pale from blood loss, but his grip did not move. Vittoria smiled at him. You will kill me in front of her? Nicholas looked at Harper. He waited. The choice was hers. Harper saw the question in his eyes. She looked at the trustee, at the archives, and at the woman who had dismantled her life. No, Harper said. She lives long enough to watch everything she built become evidence. Nicholas released Vittoria only when his guards entered and restrained her. Then his knees gave way. Harper caught him before he hit the chapel floor. Blood covered her hands. Nicholas. He looked up at her. I should have told you. Yes, I should have let you choose. Yes, I do not know how to love without protecting. Then learn. His breathing weakened. Harper pressed her hands against the wound. Stay with me and learn. He touched her cheek. Is that an order? It is a vow. The island mansion burned before dawn, not because Nicholas destroyed it, because Vittoria had rigged the archives to explode. Harper, Nicholas, and the trustee escaped by boat, while flames consumed the cliffs behind them. In the gray morning light, Nicholas lay across Harper's lap as the boat cut through black water. His eyes opened briefly. The trust documents, safe. Vittoria, alive and furious. Good. Harper looked down at him. You nearly died. I have noticed. I am still angry. I know. I may remain angry for years. I can wait. You are not allowed to watch from across the street. His eyes closed. That may be difficult. You are not allowed to buy every company that rejects me. Impossible. Nicholas. A faint smile touched his mouth. It was the first real smile she had ever seen from him. 6 months later, Vittoria Santoro stood trial in Manhattan. The scandal destroyed politicians, studio executives, judges, and financiers. Daniel testified publicly. He accepted a prison sentence for his role and apologized to Harper without asking for forgiveness. The Bennett Trust was restored. Harper inherited the fortune but refused to become another silent owner behind closed doors. She reopened Eleanor Studios under a new mandate. Stories would be chosen for talent, not obedience. The first film produced was Winter's Daughter. Harper accepted the lead role. At the premiere, the ballroom was filled with the same kind of people who had once overlooked her. Celebrities, politicians, executives, former enemies. Harper wore a deep emerald gown designed for her body rather than intended to conceal it. She entered alone, calm and radiant beneath the lights. Whispers followed her, not because she had changed, because the world had finally been forced to see what had always been there. At the far end of the ballroom, Nicholas stood beside a marble column. He wore a black tuxedo and no visible weapon. Harper knew there were at least 3. Their legal marriage had been suspended, while federal courts investigated the forged authorization. Nicholas had signed every document she requested. He transferred all control of the trust to her and offered an annulment without condition. Harper had not signed it. They had spent 6 months learning each other without surveillance, forced protection or secrets. Nicholas still called too often. Harper still ignored half his instructions. He had learned to knock. She had learned that his silence was not always coldness. Sometimes it was fear. Across the ballroom, a famous actor approached Harper and offered his hand. "I have wanted to meet you for years." Nicholas watched. His expression did not change. Only the champagne glass in his hand cracked. Harper excused herself and crossed the room. "You broke another glass. It was poorly made. You are jealous." "No. The man asked me to dance. He has 3 ex-wives and a gambling problem." "You investigated him?" "I read newspapers." Harper smiled. Nicholas's gaze softened. "You look beautiful." "I know." The answer surprised him. Harper stepped closer. "You taught me to stop accepting other people's blindness as evidence. I would prefer not to receive credit for anything healthy. You are improving." Slowly, the orchestra began to play. Nicholas looked toward the dance floor. "I do not dance. You claimed me as your wife in front of an entire ballroom. That required less coordination." Harper held out her hand. "Dance with me." He looked at her hand as if it were more dangerous than any weapon. Then he took it. The room noticed. Conversations faded as Nicholas led Harper onto the floor. His hand settled at her waist. This time, the gesture was not possession. It was a question. Harper answered by moving closer. They danced beneath the chandeliers while cameras flashed around them. "Do you remember what you said the first night?" she asked. "That you were my wife. You said it as if the world had no right to question you." "It did not. It does now." Nicholas looked down at her. Harper reached into the hidden pocket of her gown and removed a small velvet box. For the first time, Nicholas De Luca looked genuinely shocked. She opened it. Inside was a plain, silver wedding band. "The first marriage was your decision," Harper said. "This one is mine." The entire ballroom seemed to disappear. Nicholas did not touch the ring. "Are you certain?" "No." His expression tightened. Harper smiled. "I am certain about you. I am uncertain about the life that comes with you. I can leave it. That is not what I am asking. I will dismantle every organization. I am not asking you to burn the world. I would. I know." She touched his face. "That is what frightens me." Nicholas covered her hand with his. "What do you want?" "I want you to build something instead." His eyes searched hers. Harper removed the old ring from his finger and replaced it with a new one. "I want a marriage, where I choose, where I go. Yes, where protection does not become a prison. Yes, where you tell me the truth even when you think it will make me leave." His voice lowered. "Yes, and where no one gets murdered at breakfast. I can promise to avoid mornings." "Nicholas, I will try." Harper laughed softly. The sound changed his entire face. He slid a ring onto her finger, not the forged ring, not the symbol of a bargain made in secret, a ring they had chosen together. Nicholas lowered himself onto one knee. The ballroom went silent for the second time in their story. But now there were no guns, no blood, no rival families waiting to strike, only a feared man kneeling before the woman he had once tried to protect without trusting her strength. Nicholas took her hand. "I loved you badly before I knew you," he said. "I watched when I should have spoken. I decided when I should have asked. I protected you as if your life belonged to me." Harper's eyes filled with tears. He continued, "You taught me that devotion without freedom is only another form of fear. So, I am asking now, in front of every person who once believed I could take anything I wanted." His voice remained calm, but Harper felt the tremor in his hand. "Will you choose me?" Harper looked around the ballroom. 6 months earlier, these people had seen Nicholas claim her. Tonight, they would see her answer. She touched his cheek. Yes. Nicholas stood and pulled her into his arms. The kiss was slow, public, and completely unguarded. Applause rose around them, but Harper barely heard it. For the first time, Nicholas was not shielding her from bullets, hiding her behind walls, or dragging her away from danger. He was simply holding her, and for the first time in his life, the world's most feared man was not afraid of being seen loving someone more than power. Later, after the guests had left and the cameras were gone, Harper found Nicholas alone on the ballroom balcony. Snow drifted over Manhattan. He stood with one hand on the railing, looking down at the city he had once ruled through fear. Harper joined him. "What are you thinking? That I spent most of my life believing love was the one weakness I could not afford. And now?" Nicholas turned toward her. "Now I know it is the only reason I survived becoming myself." Harper rested her head against his shoulder. Below them, the city glittered with millions of lives, secrets, and unfinished stories. Nicholas covered her hand with his. No guards stood between them. No cameras watched from hidden rooms. No forged document decided what they were. Only choice. Only trust. Only the dangerous, imperfect promise of two people who had changed each other without asking the other to become someone else. Harper looked at the wedding ring on his finger. "You know," she said, "you still owe me a proper first date." Nicholas considered this. "I can close the Metropolitan Museum. No. Rent Venice. No. Buy a restaurant. You are not buying anything." His expression became grave. "This marriage may be more difficult than the war." Harper smiled. "That is the idea." Nicholas lifted her hand to his lips. Behind them, the empty ballroom glowed beneath the chandeliers. It was the same kind of room where he had once claimed her to stop a bloodbath. Now it held no threats, only the echo of his question. "Will you choose me?" And Harper's answer remained between them like a vow, powerful enough to rebuild an empire. "Yes."